This program brought to you by SydneyHarbourBoatTours.com.
Hi, I'm James Wilkinson and welcome to Wayfarer. Coming up on tonight's show, we check into some of London's top hotels, we catch up with the CEO of Accor, go high flying on British Airways and much more. Before we do that, here's this week's travel news. All of Boeing's 737 MAX aircraft have been grounded globally in the wake of the Ethiopian Airlines disaster last Sunday that claimed 157 lives. It was the second time a brand new Boeing 737 MAX 8 has crashed just minutes after takeoff, following the Lion Air disaster in Indonesia last October. During the past week, all operating airlines have had to ground some 371 aircraft, and governments worldwide have banned the Boeing 737 MAX from their airspace. The flight data black boxes from the doomed Ethiopian Airlines aircraft have been recovered and are presently being investigated in France. The global grounding of the Boeing 737 MAX fleet is expected to last until May at the earliest, until the cause of the disaster is known and software updates are made available to operators of the aircraft. Boeing also today said the company would halt deliveries of the Boeing 737 MAX until the investigation determines what caused the two jets to crash within the past 6 months. At the same time as the grounding, Lufthansa has placed its confidence in Boeing by ordering 20 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner aircraft. The deal that was announced today is valued at $5.8 billion US, and it comes alongside an existing order for the new Boeing 777X. Still on airlines, and British Airways' latest retro jet has taken to the skies over London. The Boeing 747 has been painted in the iconic Landor design, which was used between 1984 and 1997, and is part of the airline's 100th anniversary celebrations. Landor will be flying to long-haul destinations served by the Boeing 747, with the design remaining on the aircraft until it retires in 2023. Singapore Airlines is partnering up with wellness brand COMO Shambhala on a wide-ranging partnership aimed at enhancing the customer experience for travellers. The initial phase of the partnership will see COMO Shambhala's award-winning wellness cuisine introduced on selected Singapore Airlines flights in the second half of this year, elevating the airline's range of food and beverage offerings on board. Using seasonal and sustainable ingredients, each with their own nutrition profile. This style of cooking aims to inspire the palate with memorable and delicious flavours, marrying healthy eating with pleasurable gastronomy. The inclusion of these co-developed wellness dishes will progressively be made available on Singapore Airlines' Book the Cook service. In addition, a new wellness menu featuring specially curated dishes will be introduced across all classes. Singapore Airlines says future collaborations may also extend to onboard amenities and in-flight entertainment. Red Carnation Hotels here in London's got some of the most iconic hotels in town. To find out more, we spoke to the Managing Director, Jonathan Raggett. Jonathan, thanks so much for your time today. We're here at the Milestone Hotel in London, one of the great Red Carnation hotels in the city. Tell us about the great collection you have.
Hello James, well, it's great to be here and great to welcome you here to the Milestone Hotel, which here in Kensington, overlooking Kensington Palace. We're actually in one of the residences here. We have 6 of these at the hotel. They're 2-bedroom residences with great lounge and a kitchen attached to the hotel. All the services of the hotel, from housekeeping to the room service. You get all the bits and pieces you expect from the top 5-star hotel, but with a bit more space. We've 5 other hotels in London. We have the 5-star Rubens Hotel and Buckingham Palace Road overlooking the palace. Adjacent to that, Hotel 41, which has been top of TripAdvisor in London, 1,500 hotels, #1 now for the last 10 years consistently. Egerton House, which is our property next to Harrods. It's been #2 for the last 10 years too. And then we have the Montague Hotel, which is next to Britain's or London's favourite tourist attraction, that being the British Museum.
So you've got hotels in such great locations in London, so for leisure and business it's actually quite perfect.
No, it really is. And then of course we've got the Chesterfield Hotel in Mayfair, which is so well known, so many loyal guests, and actually is one of the very first Red Carnation hotels we had. So you're right, we're covered for leisure, we're covered for business. And I think today actually it's quite often difficult to know who's leisure and who's on business. So you perhaps got a new word, bleisure, because everybody seems to need to work when they're having leisure and perhaps vice versa. So, but yeah, they work very well for both.
So how do you have hotels rated so highly on platforms like TripAdvisor?
Well, the cornerstone of what we do is about our people, and we recognised many years ago that we thought best put our dollars, our pounds, our rands investments into guests talking about ourselves. So we have perhaps a few more staff than other hotels as a quota, and what we do is we are absolutely passionate about training. We have a very strong training department. We do very well at recruiting people that have that desire to understand, to care, and want to get on within our business, and we give them an opportunity to rise up through our ranks. Our general manager at the Chesterfield Hotel some 20 years ago at the Rubens Hotel was working in the linen room, and a great guy, again, all the traits that you need to be a hotelier, working hard. He had the training, he had the development, and today for the last 2 years is a very fine general manager of this property. So I think that's a great example of this business, that actually if you work hard and you care, as I say, you can get to the very top.
Yeah, you're a very British hotel brand. You've got very iconic hotels that are very classically elegant British, from the high teas to the restaurants and the rooms. It's obviously a hallmark of the brand.
Yeah, I think we go along the lines that if you're staying in a particular city, we like to think you know where you are. So we look at the antiques that we put into the rooms, the artwork that we put into the rooms. We try to single out and differentiate whereabouts that you are, to just create that kind of that fun, that theatre as to where you are, and then obviously around that supporting it with people, as we've discussed.
And people do come here for a British experience, I think, and where you're located, obviously. And as well, it's a bit of a challenging town, isn't it? You've got a lot of hotels in London, a lot of new hotels have come on, so obviously that service is a real key to it.
It is. I think, James, I don't wake up any day and not learn there's a new hotel being built, both luxury and budget. And of course, the Airbnb has really exploded here too. So there's massive competition. And I say that really within the business, that if you're looking to stay in a luxury 5-star property, for which we have, the expectations are that the pillows, the duvets, the toweling is fantastic. Our toweling's no better than anyone else's. It's certainly, they're all fantastic. So the differentiator really is probably location. Can't do much about that. And of course then the people.
Yeah. And would you look at expanding the company here in London as well?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking for opportunities. I think it's fair to say over the last few years that buying a property has become challenging now, because very rich people from all over the world kind of buy them as a toy these days. And the actual things I learned at university when I was studying hotel keeping, where you had the various quotas and the economics to build what the price should be, have been blown out. So I think, we always look to buy a property which is in need of some investments, is in need of increased service, but clearly the numbers have to work, and we, at the moment, cities such as London, it is difficult, again, because people are just, in our opinions, paying too much for it.
And Jonathan, what are some of your favourite things about the hotels here in London? F&B is great, the rooms are great. What are your favourite things?
Well, I'm often asked the favourite things, and I think there's much that I like, but I think it has come down to the people again. When people say to me, what's great, what's your favourite hotel? It's the people, it's the concierge, it's the barman, it's the front desk, it's the people behind the scenes doing a fab job. I think that's what really gets me out of bed, gets me excited, is seeing the people who are energised to work hard. And all of them offer different experiences. It's probably the Milestone, for example, gives you experiences to go behind the scenes at the Royal Albert Hall. Our property at the Montague to meet the curators, the British Museum. Again, at the Rubens, we can get you into not Buckingham Palace itself, but into the Mews. So there's different things that we can do. So I haven't got a favourite, and I know it's probably a bit of a cheesy answer, but I genuinely love them all.
Coming up after the break, Wayfarer from London continues.
Take to Sydney this summer aboard your own private sports cruiser. Experience the sun, the wind and the water at 70 kilometres an hour, landing you right on the beach. Discover the harbour like a local. SydneyHarbourBoatTours.com.
Welcome back to Wayfarer from London. One of the most talked about new hotels in town's the Kimpton Fitzroy Hotel London. Let's go inside. All right, Paul, thanks so much for your time. We're here in one of London's newest, most beautiful hotels that's got an amazing history, doesn't it?
It has an amazing history, but it is brand new. This is Kimpton Fitzroy London, and it's only been open since October last year. But the building is 120 years old, so a great juxtaposition between the two things.
Now, an awesome development from the former owners that really did an amazing job on this hotel, from the room where we are in now right through to the guest rooms, didn't they, when they built it?
It was an extraordinary investment of both love and money over a couple of years, and 80 to 90 million pounds to reimagine what is this extraordinary hotel for the modern age.
And you're in a very convenient part of London, but you're not right in the middle of the hustle and bustle, which is a nice balance.
I think it's interesting. We're right across from Russell Square, so we have our own green zone, which is great. But over the last few years, London has been looking progressively more and more east. Obviously, Shoreditch was a hot place, still remains so. And so people are looking a little bit further east, and of course we're nicely sort of 1 foot in the east and 1 foot in the west here in Bloomsbury.
And obviously very close to places like Fitzrovia, which is going through a bit of a renaissance in terms of more restaurants and bars coming into that area, and also you've got Oxford Street down the street too with lots of shopping, so convenient.
It is. Everything's walking distance from here. That's a great thing. And London, of course, is such a great walking city.
Now tell us about the hotel. Like, some of the rooms in here are some of the most spacious I've ever seen in London, but impeccably designed.
We have a wonderful designer, Tara Bernard, who's done some extraordinary work globally, and it's her vision that we see here in the hotel, in the rooms, and indeed in this space here in Palm Court. And so she's respected the classic elements of the building, but introduced some lovely modern touches and used very contemporary tones to achieve what she has in a lovely residential style.
It is. It's very very calming in here as well. I mean, like we said, you're in the middle of London, and in this room here, you do one of the best high teas, and it's just so nice and peaceful.
It is very much an escape. You step in through the wonderful entrance, into those double doors, and you leave London behind just for a moment.
And a very good bar in the hotel too.
Bar is always very important. Needless to say, quality control by the general manager on the occasion is also very important as well. Quality control checks. But it's a fabulous space. It's very sexy, like a good bar should be. A great range of cocktails in this amazing Victorian space.
How important is that in London? I mean, London's got so many great cocktail bars, and especially in hotels as well.
I think for us, it's an opportunity to join the scene at the very top, because London, like New York, really does set the tone for what cocktail bars are all about these days. And to be a serious contender, you really have to go into the market, okay, we're going to put everything in place, the right decor, the right vibe, and the right mixologist to make it happen.
And if you look at the hotel, it's been designed for the business and the leisure traveller. I mean, you've got very practical rooms with good desks inside them, as well as comfortable beds and comfortable lounges.
We have, but as you move around the hotel, you find that you can actually work everywhere if you want to, and that's really the key element, whether it's here in Palm Court. Our coffee house, Bear & Co, is sort of latte and laptop heaven in a way. It's a place where people work in very much a 21st century mode, wireless everywhere, easy to both have a meeting, eat and drink at the same time.
And if you look at the hotel as well, obviously from a meeting standpoint, you've got one of the most beautiful ballrooms in London as well.
Extraordinary, and a little bit of a secret, although not for long, we hope. But it has its own wonderful entrance. It's possibly one of the most ornate ballrooms in the city. Of course, the hotel is 120 years old since it first opened, and many elements of the ballroom actually haven't changed in that 120 years. We now have electricity, which is a good thing. And of course, the great refurbishment of the hotel included the ballroom, but we were very conscious of the Grade 2 listing as well.
When you look at the business travel that comes to London, obviously it's such a huge market for this town, and you do have things there, like you just said, that are so practical, like the cafe or the working spaces and the comfortable rooms.
Our personality is driven by our ground floor experience where all of our food and drink offerings are. We've got a great selection of restaurant and bars, and it really is pitched at today's traveller that actually wants a little bit of everything and doesn't necessarily need to leave the building to get a new experience depending on what sort of mood they're in on the day.
And Paul, what are some of your favourite things in the area around here in Russell Square?
Bloomsbury is really coming to life, and the fact that it's great squares to start with, and Bloomsbury is absolutely extraordinary, the number of green zones. You really appreciate just how clever the designers of London were centuries ago in achieving this. And now as you move through little pockets of Bloomsbury, you discover great streets just that have individual personalities. Lamb's Conduit Street, literally a couple of blocks from the hotel, is wonderful. Great shopping, great wine bars and restaurants and pubs. It's a lovely little London village experience all in one street.
Coming up after the break on Wayfarer, we're catching up with the CEO of Accor, Sébastien Bazin. Welcome back to Wayfarer. Accor is one of the world's fastest growing hospitality companies. To find out what's new and on the radar, we spoke to the CEO, Sébastien Bazin. Well, Sébastien, thanks so much for your time today. It's a very exciting time for Accor. We were just saying before, you've gone from 4 or 5 brands 20 years ago to 30 now.
38.
But a great collection. 38 brands.
38 and counting, yeah.
A great collection, though. It's a very curated collection of brands, I'd like to say.
Well, I hope you're right. We've been very draconian in terms of actually what are the brands we missed, which segments, which geography, what promise to be fulfilled. So there's only one brand we haven't kept. It's called Aton. Aton is based in Chile, Peru, Colombia, only 7 of them, and not enough depth in the brand, so we placed it by Pullman and Raggett.
If you look at this, I mean, you do an amazing job at something, I think, in the industry, is when you do deals with these brands, you keep the brand founders on board. 10 years ago, you'd buy the brand, they'd be left to the side, and then you'd rebrand the hotels, but you keep these guys and girls in the business.
Well, I'll tell you why. Had we been able to invent those brands and those promises, we would have no reason to buy them. But they're being invented by humans. They are super smart. They've seen something we haven't seen. So coming along with the brands is who is behind the brand. Every brand has a soul.
Yeah.
That soul is from someone. So if they could actually stay on board with us, it's for the better, for them and for us. So no. And culturally, it is a huge help to being enriched by so many new talents. Fairmont Raffles is a good example. We kept everybody in Toronto and they are super good.
And you look at those brands, when you integrate those into your company, obviously everything adds something, doesn't it? It adds culture, like you were saying yesterday.
Well, yeah, it adds depth, it adds strengths, it adds a new service to our clients, it adds diversity, it adds retention. So, which is what I told you, I was trying to fill some holes. We were not strong enough in New Zealand and Australia, so Mantra was a perfect fit for us. I was looking for somebody very much game reserve, eco-friendly, sustainable development. Sub-Saharan Africa, Mentis came along. Looking for something which was all-inclusive, going from Mediterranean, Turkey, all the way to Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan. Greek sauce is part of it.
Yeah.
Then trying to get into the US market, which is the most difficult market to enter because it is in the hands of fat guys. But through SBE, Delano, SLS, Mondrian, Sam Nazarian, who's a hell of a CEO, you finally tap in the 4 biggest markets, which is Los Angeles, Vegas, Miami, New York, and then 21 Seeds, a niche museum brand. So I could. The fascinating things about it, as much as I'm telling you, we've been looking for them. Many of those brands probably should not have that with you on TV, but I did not even know of their existence.
Yeah.
But they're super popular. Super well known locally, but me in Paris, I lost track of them.
Yeah.
So it's them calling us as much as us calling them.
Now, we talked about this last year in terms of what you've done from a loyalty standpoint. You've just launched ALL, which is very exciting. Tell us about that and how that works from within the company.
Well, it's a real shift of the way we think. It is not a new loyalty program. It's a new lifestyle loyalty program, which has a lot of promises. It's basically a matter of today entering in your day-to-day life, whether you work, you live, you play. Hopefully you're going to have Accor top of mind with Accor Live Limitless, in which you're going to have the ability to burn and earn points. whether you're going to go to one fine stay or co-working with next door or using concierge, digital concierge, which is on board, whether you go to Mentis or you go to SB, and access to 10,000 restaurants of Accor, even if you're not going to be staying with us.
Yeah.
So it's really getting into the whole travel universe in which Accor should be of service to you wherever you are, any time of the day. So it's a pretty interesting way of overreaching on one premise, and I'm stuck on this one. 99% of existing loyalty card members only use their card when they travel to the brand.
Yeah.
So you use a Marriott card when you go to Marriott and Accor and Hilton. None of us think of using their card when you're not traveling, when you stay home. Why can't you? Even at home, you have some Accor hotel next to you in Sydney. But you never thought of using your card. You only use it when you go to New York, when you go to Paris. That's nonsense.
Yeah, obviously, the new generation of smartphones that we see from companies like Apple and Samsung make it a bit easier, because otherwise your wallet used to be like a George Costanza size wallet with all the hotel cards.
My card's going to be on your mobile app, so you don't have to have a plastic app.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people actually want to see the card and hold it, which is kind of a bizarre thing, but I guess so we still print the card.
You've launched a couple of new membership tiers, a very secretive club, the black tier. What's all this about?
It's not secretive. We signed 3 partnerships. One, actually, let's go back 2 seconds. Loyalty members told us, 38,000 of them, we've made a survey. What are the 3 passions that they would like hotel company to fulfill and basically give them as basically money cannot buy? One of them was culinary, food tasting. So we've done a deal with IMG, which is the largest taste festival in many countries, and offering you basically cooking lessons and so forth. Done a deal with AEG, Phil Anschutz company, concert organizer, 60,000 venues in 70 concerts. And then the last is sports. And in sports, we're a French company. We wanted to be visible, notorious. We wanted to be known probably more rapidly than we could have been without a sponsorship, and decided to go with Paris Saint-Germain Football Club and be the jersey sponsor, but much more than jersey sponsor. We're going to be all over basically experiences you can have in sports, whether it is underprivileged, education, hospitality, you name it. So it is a bold, audacious move, but it makes us in the league of the big brand name that the Coca-Cola, Disney of the world.
And when you travel, what are some of the things that you really look for, and what kind of experiences do you want to do when you've got your time off?
I wish I would go more to museums, street art. I love anything which is art. I love architecture. I don't do it enough. I learned a lot about actually meeting the digital players, government officials, my owners, my investors, my clients, my employees, which makes me fed and happy. But I'm missing the 10%, which is what I call intellectual. I need to know more about a culture, about a history, and I don't do it enough. I don't know why I'm talking to you again about this, but I need more time for myself.
I ask that because like the leisure business right now is like the hottest segment in the world, and people are coming to conferences and taking 2 or 3 days off and exploring these cities.
But on this point, what we're trying to push, and we're going to be immensely successful, you happen to be going to Paris and there is Van Gogh exhibitions on Wednesday. But I know you're coming on Tuesday, and through my data with you, I know you're Van Gogh passionate. So I need to tell you, when I know of your booking, probably 10 days, a month before, hey, why don't you please stay 1 day extra, or could you push your meeting, because on Wednesday night, we can get you at the Van Gogh exhibitions, and are you going to be leaving on Wednesday morning? Could you please refit your schedule? If you know about it, then you're very pleased that I guess we thought of it in your place, and you may be rescheduling. That's what I want to do for you.
So it's a whole thing, it comes down to partnerships, doesn't it, in terms of what your teams around the world can achieve in their local markets?
Well, partnerships, as you know, in our industry happens to be with 5 big industries. You have to do partnership with the credit card industry, with the telecom industry, with the airline industry, with the car rental industry, and the food retailer industry. Because you want your card to be used, you want your card to be simple, and Accor, we have some time to catch up here. We're being late in the game, and because 1, we haven't thought about it, 2, because our program was not notorious enough, 3, because maybe it was the wrong team, 4, because we didn't have the technology, and 5, my fault, that was probably not a priority of the upper management. Well, now it is a priority.
Obviously, travel's an exciting time. The air market's going to double in the next 15 years.
From 4 million to 8 million travelers.
And you need to have all the hotels in the right locations.
I think we do. We are number one in Europe, number one in Middle East, number one in Africa, number one in Latin America, number one in Asia Pacific. Only notable exceptions, United States of America and China.
Yeah.
Are we going to be number one in those two countries? I'm afraid the answer is no, because place is taken by local operators. But what matters the most is no longer countries. What matters the most is cities. You have 1 billion travelers, 80% of 1 billion end up in 320 cities.
Yeah.
So Melbourne matters, Perth matters, Bangkok and Singapore and Rome and Paris and Sao Paulo. Don't think countries, because you may make the wrong assumptions. If you talk cities, Accor is present heavily in those 320 cities.
Well, Sébastien, congratulations on the success so far, and thank you so much for your time today.
You're going to come back next year?
I will. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
See you soon. Well, that's it from us on Wayfarer. Thanks for watching, and see you next time as our global adventures continue.